action. Hey there, movie kings and queens, and welcome to episode 15 of the Real Gay Movie Show. I'm your host, Michael Evans, and making sure I don't have to do this solo is my co-host, Ryan Provost.
God damn it, Mike. I was not ready for that. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm great.
So you just had a vacation. Did you have fun?
It wasn't a vacation. It was a long weekend.
Yeah.
I'll talk more about it later, though. I don't want to give away any spoilers. But
Okay.
yeah, I had a great weekend.
Awesome.
But if I sound tired, that
This
great
is why.
weekend is why.
Very nice. Very nice. Well, as always, I'd like to start things off with some stories from the newsreel. What do you think?
Yes, let's do it.
Okay, I've
Dive right in.
Just got a couple of them today, but I thought this was a little apropos. So a Boba Fett movie is coming from the director of Logan, James Mangold.
Yeah.
So are you excited at all about the prospect of a Boba Fett movie?
Yeah, I think that is. We'll talk more about my thoughts on Solo and which characters I think should and maybe shouldn't get these individual movies. But I think
Right.
Boba Fett is a less established character, maybe one that has a little more potential to be an interesting character to explore more in a movie. I think with someone like James Mangold, that gives me a lot of hope for that one. So I think that could be really good.
I'm not sure how I feel about it, to be honest with you. I don't know if you remember this or not, but so Josh Trank, the guy who directed Fantastic Four,
Right.
he was originally attached to direct a Boba Fett movie that was supposed to basically be coming out now instead of this Han Solo movie. But he either left or was let go, was one of those kinds of things. But in fact, apparently they even had some kind of little teaser set up to play at Star Wars Celebration in 2015, but it was pulled. But I don't know. I tell you what, with James Mangold, he did movies like Walk the Line, 3:10 to Yuma. If they kind of do this as like a space kind of Western, I think it could work. I'm not clamoring for a Boba Fett movie.
I think he's a good character to take to that level. In fact, I wish that they hadn't kind of shoehorned him into the prequels so that we could have gotten a better
I agree.
standalone origin story, because I don't really like the one they gave him in episode 2.
I agree. But so there's no release date for this yet, but I'd rather see an Obi-Wan movie.
I think they're doing both. I think they're developing both.
Developing is one thing, but they've got so many different things going on between the Benioff and Weiss series that they're working on. Rian Johnson has his own trilogy coming out, and then they've also got the Jon Favreau TV show. It's like, so they've got all these things working, but I'll be curious to see how it actually turns out. All right, so did you end up seeing the trailer for Happy Time Murders?
I did. I did. And then I showed it to a couple of my friends this weekend that I was with. And that silly string, God damn, it gets me every time.
Yeah. So I don't know if you've heard this or
did,
not. Did
yes.
you? Yeah. So the Sesame Workshop has filed a suit against STX Films, alleging that the Happy Time Murders trailer tarnishes, and I'm doing the air quotes because in this story it's in quotes, tarnishes the Sesame brand because it promoted the movie with the tagline "No Sesame, All Street," which is deemed an unauthorized use of the Sesame Street mark.
Come on. I mean, come on.
There is nobody is going to confuse this movie for being a Sesame Street movie.
Movie an idiot would.
Or, I don't know, the naive parent that just sees,
Stop. No.
Yeah, I don't know. But the movie is still, it's set to come out on August 17th, and I cannot wait for this movie.
Oh, yeah. I really liked the trailer a lot. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I think it's a good concept. It strikes me as very like Team America or I don't know if you saw Sausage Party.
I did.
But those animate kind of, or not really animated, but the kind of like movies that take a traditionally child's format and makes it raunchy and fun.
What I was going to say is this kind of makes me think of like a modern spin on like Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Yeah, same thing. Although that wasn't as adult as this is looking to be.
Well, true, but that was also what, 30 years
80s,
ago
yeah.
now or something. But
that was one of my favorites growing up.
Yeah,
Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Incorporating an animation style
Yeah.
or something with live action. But yeah. All right, so Solo, a Star Wars story.
So before we get into it, what were the trailers for yours that you saw? There was one. Oh, what was it? It was something that I wasn't excited about, and I saw the trailer and I thought it looked. Oh, so did you see the trailer for the new Robin Hood? I know it was one of your least anticipated, right?
Yeah, and I'm still not that thrilled with it.
Here's what I'll say about it.
Okay.
It does look like they are taking it in maybe a little bit different of a direction. Like it almost looks like they're turning him into a superhero.
Well, it looked like the Green Arrow to me, just in medieval times or something.
Yeah. Yeah, a little. So I don't know. I kind of like Taron Egerton.
Yeah. So here's
that's the catch for me.
Yeah. Here's the thing. I will see it. We may end up reviewing it. Who knows? I'll give it a fair shot. Hopefully he'll be shirtless in at least one or two scenes.
I mean, they had a flash of a training scene in a trailer where you can see that he has no shirt on.
Okay.
Of course he's going to have a shirtless scene.
Well, then that alone will at least get me to see it once.
Yeah. But actually, yeah, I saw that. And I actually got kind of excited for it. I thought, oh, this doesn't look as bad as I was anticipating. Because this was the first thing I saw for it at all.
It doesn't look like a bad movie. It just doesn't seem like a movie that we need again.
Well, no, it's fully not a movie we need again.
But
yeah, but I'm a little higher on it after seeing a trailer.
Well, that's good. I mean, then it's done its job. The full trailer. So here we are, Solo, a Star Wars story.
Solo together.
Or as Pete likes to just keep saying, the Han Solo movie. He refuses to say a Star Wars story.
I don't say a Star Wars story either. I just say Solo. But you know what? I'm sure you know that. I don't know why I would ask if you know a Star Wars thing. But you know what the working title they used when they were making the movie was?
Red Cup, right?
Yeah, which I think that's just adorable.
Yeah.
I like that.
And of course, they had a big marketing promotion too with Solo Cups.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, and they had somebody actually like build a Millennium Falcon out of Solo Cups. I mean, they did a lot with that.
Wow.
Cross promotion. Makes sense though, I guess.
Sure.
So, this movie was directed by Ron Howard, so to speak.
For the most part.
And we kind of talked about this a little bit in our most anticipated conversation, but so
we did. We fall on opposite ends of the opinion on that.
So, Lord and Miller got the boot, but they did get executive producer credits.
Okay.
So I don't know if you saw that or not.
I saw they declined one of the credits that they were going to get. Was it like a story credit or something like that?
Yeah, or it may have even been like a co-directing.
Yeah.
Anyway, so through all the drama, then we finally got this movie, and I know so it was written by Lawrence Kasdan and his son John Kasdan.
Mm-hmm.
And that was part of the issue with the Lord and Miller exit, was that they weren't following the script enough. Lawrence Kasdan wrote The Empire Strikes Back, co-wrote Force Awakens with J.J. Abrams. I mean, he kind of has some Star Wars clout.
Yeah.
So, I guess I can see why maybe they wanted somebody to follow his script a little bit more. So what are your initial thoughts then of the movie?
So going into it, this was the least this is the fourth post Disney Star Wars movie. This was the least excited I was going into any of the four.
Yeah. You're not alone there.
Yeah, because I love Star Wars. I really enjoy this universe and these characters. But I kind of alluded to it when we were talking about the Boba Fett movie. So I didn't need this story.
Yeah.
But having said that, it has some really great moments. I really like some of the performances in it. It's a worthy addition. It's a worthy addition to the Star Wars canon. It's certainly nowhere near as bad as the prequels.
Right.
But it's just not on the same level as the three post Disney movies that have come out so far.
Yeah, I was hoping that coming out of this that I would at least find it as good as Rogue One. But of the four new ones, it's definitely at the bottom of the slate for me. And we kind of talked about the Rotten Tomatoes score, and I was holding true and fast to the idea that it's only going to get better once it comes out, and this ended up being the lowest grossing of the new Star Wars movies, and this is a holiday weekend even, that it came out. So kind of disappointing there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to have a lot of critiques for this one. So I do want to say off the bat that I did enjoy it. I did have a good time.
Yeah.
I also just left feeling like it was unnecessary. And we're not in spoilers yet, but I was not very happy with the ending.
Yeah, we'll definitely talk about that.
I think this movie was fine. I think it was I'm not one of those people that thinks that recreating young Han Solo was a complete off limits idea.
Correct. Yeah.
I think this movie could have been a lot better and could have felt more necessary. I think that whatever it was that went on behind the scenes that caused them to part ways with Lord and Miller and hire Ron Howard, at that point, they realized how much money it was going to cost and just wanted to make the safest bet possible.
Yeah. Well, and that was one of the things I was going to mention, is that I thought that Ron Howard was an overly safe choice. I don't think this is a spoiler, but Jon Favreau has a part
right
doing the voice of a character.
Yeah.
And I would have really liked to have seen what he could have done with this movie.
Well, yeah, I mean, anyone would.
but I mean, but instead we get him working on a TV show for the Disney streaming service, which that's great too.
Yeah. It just seems like they went from what they felt like was I think now feel was an overly risky choice with Lord Miller to, like you said, an overly safe choice.
Yeah.
Just someone who can come in and deliver a decent movie. Let's just get it out.
Right.
I think they put it out. I think because Disney has been releasing all these movies in December. This is the first one that came out in May, and I think they did that intentionally, knowing that there's going to be all this talk about Infinity War still. Jurassic World is right around the corner. Like, it's not going
Deadpool was
to dominate. It's not going to dominate the conversation for that long. Whereas in December, that has for the past 3 years been Star Wars, and then just all the holiday slash Oscar
Right.
movies.
Yeah, so something I was kind of thinking about with that is, it's, I heard somebody mention Star Wars fatigue, and I don't think we're getting there yet. But especially if we can have 3 Marvel movies a year plus other comic book,
Yeah.
1 Star Wars movie a year. But this being so close to Last Jedi, having, just come out in December.
Yeah.
On top of that, then Infinity War, Deadpool,
Yeah.
Black Panther, all that. Like, so I wonder if it would have done better if it had come out in December, if they had waited to put it out until this coming December. But then now we've got 18 months between this movie and episode 9.
Yeah.
And I think that that's maybe what they were going for, to create a little bit more anticipation for the next Star Wars movie, to have it the longest gap in between the two that we've had in a while.
Maybe that could be it. I don't know. Disney has been really smart, and Kathleen Kennedy, I think, is running all the Star Wars
Correct.
universe. Just kind of the Kevin Feige of Star Wars now. Basically, just making sure. Yeah, she's kind of running the show. They've been really smart, and I think they knew exactly what they had on their hands with this movie. I think this was probably the least promoted, least marketed Star Wars movie of the 4 post Disney.
Unless you go to Denny's. They had all kinds of promotions going on at Denny's.
No.
Right.
No. So yeah, but I did have some issues with the pacing of the movie. It does drag a little. It doesn't stay at a very fast pace. Like I felt, and maybe it's because I'm so tired from this weekend, but I did feel like this movie lasted longer than it needed to.
See, now I felt like it jumped around too quickly.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So, what do you think as far as the theme of the movie? Because it kind of felt like they were going for like that space western / heist kind of film. I mean, they even had a train robbery. But do you think that the overall theme that they were going for worked for this movie?
Yes and no. I liked getting to see, because they always referred to Han Solo as a smuggler and
Right.
a thief and this kind of and all that kind of stuff. So it was kind of cool to finally get to see him do that, because I don't feel like he ever really did that in other Star Wars movies much. So getting to see him in the infancy of his smuggler days
Right.
was cool. However, I don't know. Part of me wishes that they had picked up not right when he's starting that life, but maybe in the middle of it, and they're going for this big heist. Maybe if it felt less like an origin story.
See, and that was one of the problems that I had, was that it was cool to see some of the things, that we know about Han Solo, but I felt like squeezing in how he meets Chewy, how he gets the Falcon, the Kessel, like they've squeezed in too much of the Han Solo mythos into one movie.
Yeah, because you can tell the goal was to make both a heist movie and a Han Solo origin story, and you either needed to do one or the other. I think that neither was fully developed as much as I would have liked it to be.
Yeah.
I mean, the problem with doing a Han Solo origin story is a lot of people already know his origin, and you have to do so much of those fan service things you have to check off. So he has to meet Chewbacca. He has to get the Millennium Falcon. He has to have all these moments that are going to be in a Han Solo origin story. So one of my favorite heist movies is Ocean's 11.
Yeah.
It would have been like if in Ocean's 11 they also told the entire history of Danny Ocean and how he got into crime, and all that kind of stuff, and then the heist. No, just jump in.
Right. No, I get you.
Tell us who this character is, and let's move on to the more interesting plot.
So one thing I wanted to ask you, both times that I saw it, it was super dark as far as like the cinematography of it. Like there were scenes, especially at the beginning, where it's so dark it was almost hard to see details, and even in some of the daylight scenes, it looked kind of washed out. I'm just curious as to if you noticed any of that, or are my eyes just going bad?
No, I did notice. I noticed it, and I was going to say I feel like this was the least well shot Star Wars movie from my perspective. I wasn't intrigued by most of the settings that they chose to use.
Yeah, there just weren't those awesome visuals that you get in a lot of these Star Wars movies. Like whether you like The Last Jedi story or not, there are some awesome visuals going on in that movie,
Right.
But yeah, so that was just one thing that kind of stood out to me. That was just like, problems aside, overall, I would still recommend people see this movie. Especially if you're a Star Wars fan. There's definitely gonna be things that you get out of it. But that aside, except for a few things that we will talk about in spoilers for sure, this movie I felt like was not made as much for Star Wars fans as it was for just to get average Joe moviegoer to go in and see a Han Solo movie.
I don't know. I had I feel like this movie, whereas Last Jedi I love Last Jedi, and the more I think about it, the more I love it. And the Solo is what fans were hoping the Last Jedi would be. Like, fans had their list of things they wanted to know when they went to go see Last Jedi. Who are Rey's parents? Who's Snoke? What's the significance of him? All these kinds of things. And the answers were completely the opposite of what all the fanboys wanted.
Yeah.
Solo, you go in, like I said, you have to meet Chewbacca. You have to get the Millennium Falcon. You gotta meet Lando, and they checked all those boxes. And in some ways they did it well, and in some ways I think they made not the best choices.
Would you still recommend this movie?
I would. For a Star Wars fan, because I think it's the Star Wars movie that Star Wars fans would want in terms of it's a story that fits in very well with what you think Star Wars is. Aside from the critiques for maybe some choices they made, it does feel of that universe.
See, now I took my mom to see this the second time I went. I took my mom, and she, is a casual Star Wars fan. She watches that movie, but she also watches Twilight. And we got them, and she was like, "Oh my God, I loved it! It was awesome." And I guess that's where I'm saying like,
it's a very accessible movie for casual Star Wars fans.
Exactly.
Sure.
Exactly. Well, what do you say we go ahead and start getting into the nitty-gritty of the movie?
Yeah. Let's dive in. We are talking spoilers at this point.
You've been warned.
You've been warned. If you have not seen Solo, then you should go see it and then listen to the words that we are about to speak.
So the way this movie opens that I liked better than what they did in Rogue One was, even though we didn't get the traditional crawl, we did get some text on the screen that kind of...
It was a crawl. They just did it different. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't the literal crawl. It was
in the same blue text that the long time ago is in. And there were things from Rogue One that if you had read the prequel book that they could have summed up if they'd done something like that. And I think that maybe they heard the call from some people that were like, man, they should have put something in front of Rogue One to let us know where we were at going into this. So they did that this time around, and I'm glad. I think that worked. That opening sequence, I thought was, I liked some of it, but there was some of it that I thought, I don't like the way that played out.
I think the beginning of this movie is, that's where the fact that this is an origin story really, it didn't start very strong for me.
Yeah.
I wish it had been just full, he's an established character doing his smuggling things.
Right. I like that,
like in the middle of maybe in the middle of a heist.
Yeah.
Like us, you know how heist movies will sometimes start with a small heist and then it's the big heist.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with you. I liked that we finally got to see Corellia, because you hear about Corellia a lot throughout the saga, and that's his home planet. That's where Wedge Antilles was from, if you really dig deep into the canon. What kind of bothered me, though, was that here again, it seems like almost every planet that they introduce is like the armpit of the galaxy. You know what I mean? It's just like, why does every planet have to be in shambles? And people would never. Why would anybody ever want to go back to Corellia? Like,
well, the first title card says it's a lawless time. I think that
right.
I think that's the look of the. I think that's the look that they're going for in this, the height of the Empire time, is that things are kind of in disarray a little bit.
Yeah, I get it. It's just, it just bums me out that we don't see any of what's left that's worth fighting for. Yeah, so obviously then eventually Han gets, he joins the Empire to escape Corellia.
Which I really, one thing I did like a lot, I liked the Empire marketing materials.
Did you notice that they had the Imperial March in one of the propaganda videos?
Yeah.
So
that was fun. I thought that was really clever. I thought that was
join the Empire today.
Yeah, I thought that was cool. I
actually liked that.
I like one of the things that excites me about getting outside of the Skywalker saga or whatever the main trilogies are going to be is seeing more of the day-to-day kind of life, and how, we always heard about this empire, but what
effect does it have on
what does it actually look like? So I think I really liked that little piece.
Yeah. Well, and I think here again is another reason why I kind of felt like Rogue One worked a little bit better, because even with, yes, we see Darth Vader and Tarkin, it was a whole new set of characters, so you see, you don't have predispositioned expectations or whatever of, where that story is supposed to go, but you don't have any thoughts on what these characters are supposed to do to get to those points.
Sure.
And so that's where I think then we're kind of handcuffed a little bit to the way that we're supposed to, how Han is supposed to be portrayed.
I definitely prefer the model of, taking, maybe it's connected somehow to one of the main stories, but doing all new characters. I really like the Rogue One model versus I don't want an origin story on every character that we don't have an origin story for yet. I don't need that. I don't need it.
Yeah.
But I mean, I know they're doing the Boba Fett and Obi-Wan. Is there a character you think is there a character you would want to see a movie about?
Not really. I mean, honestly, I can't think of any other characters that I would want to see a standalone movie about. I don't need to see young Luke going to Tashi Station or, anything like that.
I don't know what any of those words mean. I don't know what a Tashi Station is.
But I was going to Tashi Station to pick up some power converters.
Oh my God.
You don't remember that line?
Not verbatim, no.
and not delivered like that. Okay. So, all right. Well, so speaking of Han joining the Empire,
Okay.
so it kind of jumps ahead 3 years, and that's when we get to see him meet Chewbacca.
I wish instead of it saying 3 years later, it said a slightly less long time ago. In a galaxy still equally
far away.
Far away.
That's great.
See, if Lord Miller had done this movie, that's exactly what it would have said.
See, the thing is I can laugh about that, but I actually wouldn't want to see that.
You would be so angry.
I would have thrown my popcorn
my
had
God.
I bought some.
The shade of blue they used was not the exact same as the original Star Wars, and I am not having it.
Well, that was special edition blue, my friend.
Special edition blue. Oh.
So that's kind of where, like, out on the battlefield, that's where Han gets introduced then to Woody Harrelson's character and his gang, and Han gets thrown into this underground dungeon to be fed to a beast.
I loved that.
Yes.
I loved the introduction of Chewbacca. It was perfect.
So, what did you think of Han speaking Shrirook, which
What?
is the Wookiee language,
Oh
by
my
the way?
God.
It's called Shrirook.
I'm gonna learn so many things I never wanted to today. I don't know. That was a little weird.
It was weird.
But you know what he was saying to Chewbacca to get them to become friends? My mom's name is also Martha.
Oh, Jesus.
That was a little weird. That was a little odd that they chose that. But no, I really like that scene. I did like how they met. I kind of saw it coming as soon as they said we're gonna feed him to a beast.
Yeah.
As soon as they throw him in that little pit, I was like, oh, I bet it's time for Chewy.
I know. It's like, it's supposed to be kind of reminiscent of the whole Rancor thing, but you knew that was going to be Chewie coming out of there.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
he was looking a little rough though.
He was looking a little rough. So they get out of there and end up still teaming up with Woody Harrelson, and that's when then their smuggling / heist career
Heist Queer.
heist queer.
That sounds like a great movie. That's the movie I want to see.
The heist
Queer.
So that's when they finally begin that journey.
Yeah.
So what did you think then of the reveal once their train heist kind of goes off the rails? It goes bad.
How long you been thinking of that one, Mike?
It just came to me.
Oh,
believe
did
it or
it?
not. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it literally just came to me. So they have to go explain to who they were hired by what happens, and then we see that Kira's there.
That's where I wish the movie had started. I
Okay.
wish the movie had started with the train scene.
Gotcha.
And just middle of the heist. Let's not even explain who all these crew are. We're on this mission. And even if it then cut back to maybe some things that happened before then in the next scene, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which I know Star Wars doesn't do a lot of like hopping around on timeline. They do things pretty chronologically usually in the movies, but I think that would have been a really strong way to start the movie, to have this heist that then almost everyone dies on.
Yeah.
That would be that's a bam. Like, that is a way to start a movie.
I think I agree with you. And I think that they could have started off with him and Chewie working, just like they did. But then if somebody was like, how'd you guys meet? I mean, Rogue One had a couple flashback scenes. They could have done like a quick, like, Han explaining how he met Chewbacca to somebody, and they kind of do a little flashback scene or something.
Yeah.
And that too then would have incorporated showing that Han had been a part of the Empire.
Yeah. Yeah. So I just, that would have been a really cool way to start the movie. I wish, and I thought that was a I know we talked a lot about not really liking the look of a lot of the scenes, but I actually kind of liked the train heist visually.
Yeah. Well, I thought that was cool, and them losing the cargo that they were trying to steal is what leads them to then have to go replace that product. So that's kind of how then, like, they need a ship, and then that's how they get to meet Lando. So, like, that series, I liked how that paced out then, and Kira's like, I know a guy, so they, then they go to meet Lando. That first time that you see Han sit down at that card game, that's where at first you think that Han's going to win the Falcon, but he doesn't.
Why are you saying you? You don't know my mind. You don't know what I was thinking.
That's where they wanted people to think that Han was going to win the Falcon. But they show Lando cheats.
Yeah, that's one thing I really liked, how if you're going to make a Han Solo movie, he's a good guy, but he's also a smuggler, a thief, a scoundrel, all these things. So I really liked that even these characters we love and the characters we are supposed to hate in this movie, they're all just trying to get a hand up on, or a leg up on others. And there's very little loyalty, and it made for a lot of twists, a lot of people switching sides or allegiances and that kind of stuff, which I feel like you have to do in a Han Solo movie. So glad to see that they stuck to that aspect of these characters.
Yeah. Just a little dirty, a little shady side of them.
Very shady side. Very shady. But I loved Lando. I thought Lando was great.
I thought that he was one of the better parts of the movie.
Yeah. Donald Glover is
a stud.
So great. He's so great.
Yeah, I mean,
he just really embodied that, like, really cool. Like, you can tell that Lando is just probably one of the coolest people wherever he goes.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what. Close your eyes and listen to him. He sounds like Lando.
Yeah, he does a really good job of doing the voice and the mannerisms.
Yeah. I mean, he kind of became Billy D. Williams in a good way. Like you don't want, like, I didn't want Alden Ehrenreich to do an impression of Harrison Ford doing Han Solo.
Yeah.
And I didn't feel like Donald Glover was doing an impression of Billy D. Williams, but more just embodying that spirit of Lando Calrissian. You know what I mean?
And well, that's what I mean when I say, like, he picked up on the most important thing about Lando is the coolest person in any room.
That suaveness.
And even I really liked how they filmed him. Anytime if you notice, he's always right there in the center. He's not just...
Okay.
They were putting him right in the center when they go to any of these card games or anything like that. All of his big old... They even take you into his big old closet in the Millennium Falcon.
His cape room.
His cape closet.
That is awesome. I want a cape closet.
Like, you can tell that he is just... he's just a fun guy that you want to spend time with.
So, okay, since we're talking about Lando, let me ask you about this. So, Lawrence Kasdan and John Kasdan have kind of come out and said that as far as they're concerned, and remember, Lawrence Kasdan pretty much created Lando Calrissian with writing Empire Strikes Back. He says that Lando is pansexual. Have you heard any of that? Had you heard that?
I did not catch that in the movie, no.
No, well, okay, so that's the thing. It's not referenced in the movie at all. So you've got the writers telling you that the character is pansexual. Does that count as representation, or... Listen, this is a subject that's been on my mind about this. Is that I would love to see some LGBT representation in the Star Wars movies. It's all over the novels, even in the new canon. There are gay. There's a gender non-conforming character in the new Han Solo book. Like, it's all over the new canon. But they're not putting it in the movies.
What are you talking about? He did have a little. You don't count droids as people you can be attracted to.
So would you consider that to be a pan thing? It's a female droid, but it's a droid.
Listen, my sex robot at home is my partner, and I'll be damned if you're gonna come in here telling me who I can and can't love. Love is love, Mike. Love is love.
Love is love. Are you compatible?
Absolutely not.
It works.
Even my sex robot is leaving me forever alone. Well, you talked a little bit. So we talked about Lando and Donald Glover's performance. What did you think of Alden's Han?
I thought he did a good job. Like I said, I wasn't expecting him to do an impersonation of Harrison Ford doing Han Solo, and I felt like he did a good job with a lot of the mannerisms. I think that there were a few times he didn't quite feel like Han Solo, but there were some times that I really saw Han Solo in him. And if we wind up getting a sequel where he plays this character again, I think he'll grow even more into it. But I was happy with his performance.
Yeah, I thought he did fine. He wasn't the strongest. I think they could have done better as far as getting someone to play Han, because they've done really well in recasting some iconic parts before. So I thought Ewan McGregor was a great Obi-Wan
Right.
in the prequels. I think, like I said, Donald Glover was a great Lando. There's something about Alden that didn't quite embody what I thought Han Solo was.
Is there anybody you can think of that might have done a better job?
I was trying to think of that, and maybe it's because of the Robin Hood trailer, but I think Taron Egerton maybe has a little bit more of a...
He was one of the people that was up for the role.
Yeah, he has a little more... I don't know, maybe it's because I got to see him be that kind of like fun kid in the Kingsman movies. That's a really fun role. I think Han Solo should be a really fun role. I didn't get a ton of fun from Alden. There were moments where he did, and I was like, oh, there you go.
Yeah.
But it wasn't throughout.
Like the scene towards the end where the leader of that Marauder group, Enfys Nest, Beckett's trying to confront them, and Han kind of steps up and he's like, we have 30 people in that ship over there, and then Lando takes off with the ship, and then Han backs up. That was a very Han Solo move to me.
That was great. I loved that. I wish that there had been a little bit more of that in there. There are times where I felt like he was slipping in and out of what I think about when I think of Han Solo.
Yeah.
But he did fine. He's a very beautiful man. I'm not going to complain about having to look at him.
He is not
for a couple,
ugly, that is for sure.
Yeah, for a couple hours. He's great to look at. I don't think he was the best choice, but he did a good job.
Yeah.
He did well enough.
Yeah. So we finally get to see the Kessel Run.
Yeah. What'd you think of that? Was it everything you hoped it would be?
Not quite. So I guess what's weird is I wasn't quite sure what I was expecting, but that weird creature that they had in space, and that threw me off. Like I didn't like that sequence with that tentacled creature that they had to escape from that was going towards the mall. I mean, it was just like when I hear Kessel Run and I think about that, I almost picture more of like a race.
Yeah, that's what I always picture too.
And yeah, so it didn't play out like I thought that the Kessel Run should have gone. I mean, it was kind of funny how then later Han Solo was like, I just made the Kessel Run in under 12 parsecs, and Chewie's and he's like, well, if you round down.
Yeah.
But the Kessel Run itself, I don't know. It didn't hit me the way that I was hoping that it would.
Yeah, it certainly. I had the same impression as far as it wasn't what I was picturing that to be. Yeah, and that was definitely one of those scenes that dragged a little for me. I think I
will agree with you there.
Yeah, where they had the tentacle creature.
And then they're stuck, and they put that hyperfuel in there, but then the engine goes out, and so they start. It's just like a little too many beats before getting out of there.
Yeah.
I did like though that made them lose that front part of the Falcon, so then it starts to look like the Millennium Falcon that we know.
Yeah. The one thing I'll say is that, I was hoping the Kessel run would be different, if for no other reason than it's been something that's been talked about that we knew would be in this movie that we were looking forward to, we being Star Wars fans.
Yeah.
I guess. And it ended up just being another Star Wars does this thing. It's kind of a Star Wars thing where, okay, we have to get away from these people. Okay, well, let's take this detour into a much more dangerous path.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
they do it so much. Force Awakens had one of those scenes. Empire has one of those scenes. Like, they do it. And so the Kessel Run just ended up being...
Did it in the clone or Attack of the Clones, too.
Yeah. So the Kessel Run essentially was just that again.
An obstacle.
Yeah. Like...
Yeah. My favorite part, though, about that sequence, because as they're escaping Kessel, Lando gets injured and L3 is destroyed. So this gives the reason then to have Han and Chewie fly the Falcon for the first time. And so that to me, though, was that kind of moment in that scene where it's like, yeah, we got Han and Chewie now piloting the Falcon.
Yeah. That must have been a lot of fun to film for them.
Oh, I'm sure it was.
Yeah. That was cool.
Yeah. So, I mean, after that Kessel scene is where we kind of get into that third act.
Yeah.
So why don't you start us off on your thoughts of going into that third act? Is there anything that particular that you want to bring up?
I felt like I left really disappointed with how this movie wrapped up, because what ended up being the third act and the end of the movie felt like it was setting up for something to come after it.
Yeah.
And then to find out that it essentially it feels like it's setting up for a sequel where something is much more interesting going to happen, I was like kind of bummed out about that, because I was starting to get excited about where things were going, and then it just ended. I was like, oh, I guess that was it.
Yeah.
And so the things that happened in the third act were not as, I don't know. It would have worked better if it was building to something else, but it just kind of, I was like, oh, that was it.
Yeah. Well, so earlier in the movie, Beckett tells Han, don't trust anybody. And sure enough, Beckett betrays Han. It was like...
Yeah, you see it coming from a mile away.
You see that coming. And I almost kind of wished... I was kind of hoping that in the end, it was going to actually end up being Kira that double-crossed Han. And for some reason, then Han had to kill her. Just... Not that I wanted to necessarily see her die, but I feel like if she had... it would have given Han a little bit more of a reason to be so down on the galaxy and do you know what I'm trying to say here at all? Like it would have just put him in that little bad place.
I feel like they're trying to build to that happening in a sequel.
And that could be. This is where I was saying I feel like the way that this movie ended is I think that the Boba Fett movie could be the sequel to this, but I don't necessarily believe that Han Solo is going to play a big part in it at all. So Beckett betrays Han. Han shoots first.
Yeah, I did like that moment.
They made that very clear. Han was shooting first. And what I'm glad that they didn't do was Beckett actually say, good job, kid. You should always shoot first. That would have just been too much.
Yeah.
But that's when then we see, before Han goes out and confronts Beckett, Han and Kira are battling that Voss guy who was really kind of just a throwaway character.
He was, and it was a shame because I actually kind of like that character. I thought he was I thought I don't know, I liked him. I thought he was cool. Paul Bettany. I liked him better in this than I did as Vision in the Avengers.
Yeah, so quick behind the scenes thing. So originally that character was supposed to be a motion capture alien.
Okay.
And then after all the director change and time constraints and all that, they decided just to go with a human with scars on his face.
Okay.
So I kind of feel like that character didn't get the development that it needed because they made so many changes to it at the last minute.
Yeah. But I still really liked him. I wanted more of him. I wish he wasn't a throwaway villain. I wish he could have been the big bad because he was really cool. I liked the look. I'm glad it wasn't an alien. I thought it was a really great look to him. Ironically enough, I thought the same treatment he got in this movie is what happened to Darth Maul in Phantom Menace. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
well,
just kind of this great villain that has so much potential that then was a throwaway.
Well, and like Maul, I think one of the problems that this character had was that even though we didn't see him until the end, he reported to somebody else. So I think that kind of affected then like how big of a baddie he could be because he still answered to somebody else.
Right.
And as we then find out, it's Maul.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and get into that one.
Okay.
What were your thoughts on that?
So here's the thing. There are two characters that we've seen before that I thought we would get in this that we did not.
Okay.
One being I thought we'd get a Boba Fett appearance because he and Han are kind of tied together.
Yep.
Right? And then I thought we'd get a Jabba.
Yep.
Especially when they mentioned Tatooine.
Yeah, so we get kind of mentions
Yes.
of Jabba, just not by name.
We didn't get either of them. So Darth Maul shows up, and that was definitely a left-hand turn. And here's the thing with that character. So I know if you're a casual fan who has only seen the movies, you're like, wait,
Right.
He got cut in half and fell down that big chute there. So I think that I wonder how confused, like I knew that he survived that. And he was a big part of Rebels, right?
So he actually came back in like season 3 or 4 of the Clone Wars.
Okay. But all I was going to say is that it felt very fan servicey. It didn't feel necessary. It felt fan servicey for two reasons. Because they know he's a popular character that a lot of the hardcore fans really love.
Right.
So much so that they brought him back from the dead. And I think it was an excuse to have a lightsaber in a Star Wars movie.
Agreed.
Because before, as it was getting close to the end, I was like, wait, is this going to be the first Star Wars movie to not have a single appearance of a lightsaber?
Right. So in that one scene, they had the usage of the Force and the ignition of a lightsaber.
Which maybe that's something that Kathleen Kennedy or Disney's like, okay, you have to have this in a Star Wars movie at least once. And that was their, okay.
Yeah. So that was a scene where, as the junkie that I am, I was like, that's amazing. That is badass. But at the same time, I was like, this is going to turn so many people off.
So Yoda has a moment in The Last Jedi.
Right.
And I feel like that scene with Yoda was much more essential. It wasn't let's have Yoda in for the sake of having him. He had an important message.
Yeah.
And it was a good turning point for Luke in that movie. And I was getting excited. I got excited for a second because I thought, oh, we're going here next. But then the movie ends. I was like, oh, did they just set up a sequel? Like I wanted so badly for this to be a movie that just existed on its own, and we could be done with this version of Han Solo.
Yeah. But going back then to the Boba Fett thing, I think that the Boba Fett sequel is going to have Kira or the Boba Fett movie, I should say, is going to work as kind of a sequel to this, and is going to have Kira and Maul involved in something that Boba Fett's involved with, and that's how they're going to move that story along. We may or may not see some of Han and Lando and Chewie, but I mean, they do have Alden signed to a 3-picture deal. But
I'm not excited about that. I'll be disappointed if that's what the Boba Fett movie ends up being.
Yeah.
Because I like the thought of these movies, one of the appealing things to me about doing the Star Wars story movies that are not part of the big trilogies is let's explore parts of this galaxy that we don't get to see all the time with characters we have not met, because there's literally limitless possibilities. And then what, we're gonna build a new trilogy about Han Solo or something. Like I don't want that. I want to explore other things.
So this is where it could be disappointing twofold. For one, if this really is a one and done and they ended it like that, that's horrible. You know, because they set it up for another story. But that being said too, this is Solo, a Star Wars story. It's meant, I mean, just the title alone makes you think it's a one and done.
Right.
Which is what it should be.
That's what I loved about Rogue One.
Yeah.
You got this, movie that exists on its own, can be its own thing, and we see it, and we're done with it.
Right.
They literally made it impossible to continue that story because everyone died.
Yeah.
Whereas this, I don't like this model. I don't want to create more opportunities to spend more time with the same characters you know what I mean? Like,
well, and they're digging themselves into a place where they're just inviting the chance to really mess up characters that we already know and have fallen in love with for decades with some of these. You know what I mean? Whereas Rogue One, whether you like it or not, it doesn't change what you already know about any particular character, other than giving Darth Vader a dad joke.
Yeah. Bet you love that. Oh God. Yeah, I don't know. I will be very disappointed if I don't want to see Solo 2. That's all I'm going to say.
Actually, I agree.
Yeah, I want to see other things that can exist in this universe. And that's why I really wish I could see the movie that Lord and Miller wanted to make. I want to see what they would have done.
I'm a little more curious about it now, but I still don't want to see a slapstick version of Han Solo, which is how I feel like that was going.
I don't think that's what they would have done, because it wouldn't have felt right.
The actors specifically said it felt like they were doing a Han Solo Ace Ventura movie. One of the casts had said.
Yeah, but I think they did go out of their way. I think they went out of their way to really... I didn't like how Disney kind of... I don't want to say they trashed Lord and Miller, but they did make sure things got released to make people not feel good about how Lord and Miller were taking the movie. That was not an accident, Mike. They did that on purpose, because you can tell Disney picked Ron Howard, safest person you could probably pick to direct this movie, and they released a really safe movie. And I wish that they would just leave it be and not do more of these. I'm kind of concerned that is this why we haven't heard a lot about what's coming after episode 9? We haven't heard a ton. I mean, they just confirmed the Boba Fett movie.
Yeah, but
is it because they wanted to wait for the reveal that this was setting up for a sequel?
I mean, maybe, but I mean, they have confirmed that Rian Johnson is working on a new trilogy.
Well, yeah, but I meant.
I mean, yeah, I
meant
know
these,
we don't
like,
have the
a
story
Star Wars
details.
story.
Oh, gotcha.
Movies.
I still liked the anthology when they were calling it that.
I like that better too.
So
you haven't really talked much about new characters. How you feel about any of them? Did you dislike any of them?
well, so one of them is going to be in my no ma'am, so I'll get to that one when we get there. But actually, I liked the crew that Beckett had put together.
Yeah.
But Val and I can't remember what Jon Favreau's character was called. Rio. I think it was Rio. Like that little alien, I thought was great.
Yeah.
And it brought that kind of, alien vibe then to this crew, and made it more than just humans. But they both died right at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah, I liked Rio a lot. He was one of my favorite new characters. I wish he could have stuck around.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, I liked that character a lot, actually.
Do you feel like Disney has this? I wonder if they feel a need to, because both with Rogue One and now with this movie, they're introducing these characters and then killing off so many of them. Do you think it's because they think people will be confused as why they never get mentioned again or why they never show up again?
I do, but I feel like the universe is big enough, or the galaxy is big enough in Star Wars that people can just go off and if they don't join the rebellion, they're nowhere to be.
But do you get that feeling too?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Rogue One and this movie kill so many people.
Well, and
almost every new character we meet that has any sort of significance dies.
Yeah. And it felt like it was kind of a throwaway too, just to kill them off. I mean, Beckett's upset for a second, and then it's just it didn't feel like there was much of an impact to their deaths.
Yeah. But that's definitely something that they're doing, and it feels a little weird.
Yeah. Yeah.
I get it.
It's unfortunate, though.
It's Star Wars. It's not Star House Party.
And
so I know that people are going to die, but
I feel like to introduce the Woody Harrelson's character, he had to have a crew, but they needed to get it down to where the focus was on him and
Sure.
Han. So I get that, but it is just it is a repeating trope here
which
that
is
they're
another
doing.
reason why I think I'd be very interested in them going to a completely different story, not connected to our main characters that we know from the original trilogy.
Yes, that's what I want.
Yeah, so that you don't have to kill everyone, or you don't have to wonder why,
Yeah, and I think so. There's some rumor that so Benioff and Weiss, the two guys from Game of Thrones, they are getting a series of movies, Star Wars movies. I have a feeling, and the rumor is, and I'm tending to believe this, is that their series of movies is going to take place in the Old Republic, like back when there were a Sith army and the Jedi army fighting each other, and it's kind of a Game of Thrones kind of vibe.
Okay.
And so,
see, that would be a lot more interesting to me.
Yeah.
Than, okay, let's see what young Jar Jar Binks was like.
Right. Exactly. I mean,
I don't care.
You go back 1,000 years or something like that, which is what the Old Republic
an even
is.
longer time ago.
An even longer time ago. Right.
In a galaxy equally farther away.
But you don't have to worry about stepping on the toes of what's already happened.
Yeah, but then you establish all that canon, and everyone's going to be like, "Oh, they can't fuck with all this now."
Whatever. Can't win. Let's I don't know. Did you have any of the new characters that just really stood out to you?
I liked Rio a lot.
Yeah.
Like I said, yeah, a couple of the characters I'll talk about in my takes.
Yeah. I mean, you kind of mentioned that you did like
But I really,
Dryden Voss.
I did. I thought he was great. Woody Harrelson. What did you think of Woody existing in the Star Wars universe?
I kind of like it. I like Woody Harrelson, but I mean, he felt like Woody Harrelson. I mean,
Yeah.
he felt like Hamish from Hunger Games. He felt, it just kind of felt like Woody Harrelson.
Yeah. I mean, he works in that role, I think, for sure. He has that.
Gravitas.
Yeah.
Yeah, they needed the veteran actor, and I get that. But I saw the character that he was playing, but I also just saw Woody Harrelson.
Yeah. It's like, oh, Woody Harrelson was
Yeah.
in Star Wars.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. That's how I felt too, but I thought he did good. I liked him. I liked him enough.
Yeah, exactly. I liked him enough.
But I don't think any of these. What was the droid in Rogue One? I can't remember his name.
K2SO.
Yes.
Yeah.
He is one of my favorite Star Wars characters now because
Yes.
that performance was so great.
Yeah, the great Alan Tudyk.
Right. I don't really have a character like that in this movie who
Yeah.
I'm in love with and is one of my favorite Star Wars characters now.
Yeah.
And as far as established characters go, I didn't think they gave Chewbacca a lot to do. Like, some of my favorite Chewbacca moments recently have been he's had a lot of really funny comedic moments in Last Jedi and Force Awakens, and I don't feel like he got a lot of those.
I don't know. I actually, I'll talk about him a little bit more in a
Yeah.
little bit, but I actually really liked, at least with what he did have, I really liked Chewbacca in this movie.
Yeah, I guess I just really preferred what they did with him in those two movies than what they did with him here.
Yeah.
Because, in a Han Solo movie, of course, Chewbacca is going to be a big
Right.
part of it. But I feel like they maybe worked more to establish Han's relationship with Kira or with some of the other characters than they did with Chewbacca. I don't feel like they didn't do as much to establish them. I was kind of thinking it would feel like a buddy movie with the two of them, and I definitely didn't get that vibe.
I can see that. Well, I think we're going to start stepping on some stuff. So why don't we get to our takes?
Okay.
Or do you have something else that you want to talk about?
The only thing that I thought was kind of funny that I liked that they did. So I definitely noticed in the original trilogy that the only person in the universe to pronounce Han's name as Han was Lando.
Uh-huh.
And so I loved that kind of throwaway line in this movie where Alden goes, "It's actually Han, but whatever, it's fine."
Yeah. And so it almost becomes a nickname,
Right.
that Lando gives him.
And it made it kind of felt like, how sometimes someone, to establish how cool they are, pretends like they don't know someone's name or don't know how to pronounce someone's name. It kind of had that vibe to it. So I really like that. I thought that was funny. I had a little chuckle.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah.
I like that. So just to kind of wrap up the movie itself, so after Han and Chewie get away, they go find Lando, and then finally we see the actual game of Sabacc where he does win the Falcon.
Yeah, I liked how he stole the card from him.
the secret card.
Yeah.
All right, let's let's go ahead and get into our takes then.
Cool.
So what was your gayest take?
My gayest take? Well, you talked about LGBT representation in these movies. And you know what? I'm on board. I think that we should have some representation. But I was happy to see that we finally have a drag queen in a Star Wars movie.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Lady Proxima.
Okay.
First drag queen. That's the vibe I got from that character.
Okay.
And what a great drag name, Lady Proxima.
Yeah. Yeah. It does have a drag name ring to it, for sure.
And that voice, like, I was like, she was literally serving fish.
Oh, Jesus.
So how dare you say there's no LGBT representation in these movies, Mike?
Okay.
When Lady Proxima is right there,
Gotcha.
living her best fishy life.
Oh, Lord. All right. I'll let you have it.
What about yours, Mike?
So mine was Han and Chewie sharing a shower.
Oh, yeah.
I love how they show Han's muddy feet and water coming down, and then you see Chewie's big muddy feet come in there, and then they don't completely pan up, but they go up to their heads, and
If only.
I know, right? And Han's like, I was kind of thinking we could do this one at a time. But
See, I wanted more of those kinds of moments between the two of them.
yeah,
That's what I was talking about earlier. That I like that a lot. That was a funny scene.
that was a great Han and Chewie moment.
Yeah.
And, it just kind of helped establish that relationship that they have. So, but yeah, I would have liked to have seen a little more of Alden in the shower. But just saying.
I was referring to Chewie.
Hey, you know,
I want to see that big Wookiee dick.
the Wookiee ween.
That Wookiee ween. Yep.
All right. So let's get into some shade. It's getting hot in here.
Okay, my shadiest take. So I feel like L3, the droid, was a reaction to how popular K2SO was, and they wanted to have another droid that could steal the show.
Yep.
And I was not about it.
Nope.
I didn't really like L3.
I did to a point, but I kind of felt like, it felt like they were trying to take K2SO and bump it up a notch, and having this droid be all about equal rights and droid rights and stuff like that. I thought that was kind of an interesting angle, but I felt like it got pushed a little too much.
Yes. With that, I think that it makes sense. I think that could or would happen with these, sentient droids.
Yeah.
But they made the character kind of obnoxious about it in a way. It's like, wait, are you criticizing people who try to get rights? Like, it almost was like, I don't know. It was getting a little too close to.
Well, they made it almost made the need to fight for rights feel preachy.
Right. And naggy.
Yeah, that's a better word.
Yeah. And it's like, I wasn't quite on board with how they handled that.
Yeah.
Like, I could see having a droid character in a Star Wars movie who, mentions that and talks about that, but just something about how they did it, I thought, gosh, like, if you're a real activist, like, you might be kind of offended by how they portray that.
I would have almost preferred to see K2SO at some point in that movie, just a quick "Where's my equal rights" or something like that, and then drop it,
right?
Just to show that droids think about that,
yeah,
but not be so pushed so heavy like they did with this character.
Yeah. So that was my shade.
Okay. Well, let me tell you about mine here, and I was afraid that we would start talking about it earlier because it happens at the beginning of the movie.
Okay.
And I don't know, you might like this, but the way that Han got his last name from an Imperial recruitment officer, I hated with a passion.
Really?
Hated it. So just to recap that scene, he's trying to join the Empire, and they're like, "What's your name?" Han. What's your, Han what? He's like, "Just Han." And he's like, "So you're alone?" Okay. Solo. Han Solo. You've got this character that hates the Empire so much, but he's built this reputation with his name. Like, why would he then have continued? He was only in the Empire for 3 years before he jumped ship. Why would he continue to use that name if for the majority of his life it meant nothing to him? And then it's much more poetic if you think about this guy who is kind of a loner and his name is just, his birth name is Solo. You know, I just I hated it. I hated that part.
Yeah, it was one of those things. I never wondered where Han Solo's last name came from. You know, sometimes in some of these movies that are an origin story of something we all know and love, I don't need to know the origin of everything.
Yeah.
And his last name was one of those things. If you had taken that out of the movie, I don't think anyone would have come out saying, okay, it was a good movie, but why is his last name Solo?
Right.
Like, you didn't need that.
I came out of it going, why did they need to give him the last name Solo?
So that's one of those origin movie type of things that kind of bugs me. This one was, I would say, I don't think I'm as down on it as you clearly are. But yeah, I agree. I didn't think it was necessary. It didn't do anything for me. I didn't like it. I also didn't necessarily hate it. It just kind of is.
I've been doing a lot of thinking about this.
I
Can
see
you
that
tell?
on your face.
I'm about as furious about this as I am about the no LGBT representation. Anyway, so I mean, I could go on and on and on about that, but I'm not gonna. I'm gonna leave it there. Who the fuck's Slade?
Okay, for me, I'm not gonna say much about it because I've already said a lot about him. But Donald Glover,
Yeah.
I think stole the movie. I just loved. Oh, I loved so you see it in the closet in one scene, and I was like, oh, I want to see him wearing this shirt, the yellow one with all the patterns on it.
Yeah.
This should be my gayest take, listening to myself talking about this. The yellow shirt with that pattern.
It was so cute.
And then he put it on at the end, and he had it on, and it looks so good on him. I loved it. But no, he did so great. I loved him. I loved the character. I loved how he really captured the essence. He doesn't really look like Billy D. Williams or Lando at all much.
But there's a good example of not needing to.
Exactly. It's not always about the look. Sometimes it's about just mannerisms and voice and how you carry yourself.
Right.
And he nailed it. It was so good.
Yeah. So my Slade was Chewbacca. I know that he could have had more to do in the movie, and I wish he did. But I loved just every scene that he was in. I loved the vibe that he brought. And to me, and maybe it's because it's not somebody's face that we're used to or whatever, like Chewbacca being there, Chewbacca and the Falcon itself were like the two like big connective tissues that I loved about this movie.
Okay.
And I don't know if you've seen the actor that's playing Chewbacca now outside of his costume.
Oh, he's a sexy man.
He is damn fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
new guy.
Jonas Suetamo. He's played basketball. He's played hockey. I'd be happy to play with him. But anyway, no. I mean, I'm not gonna. There's no specific thing that stands out. But just watching the movie, I was just like, I really loved when Chewbacca was on the screen.
Yeah. I mean, how can you not?
Yeah. I mean, all right. Who's your no, ma'am?
My no, ma'am. It's a shame because I love Game of Thrones, and she's so great in it. But Emilia Clarke is not doing it for me. And
mine too.
Yeah, she has this. What makes her character work on Game of Thrones is she has this very unassuming look to her, where you wouldn't look at her and think she is this super powerful,
right, dragon, mother of dragons.
And I think that's what led to her being, that look is what led to her being cast in Terminator, the Terminator movie where she played Sarah Connor.
Yeah.
I think it's the same thing, that they wanted that like sweet, innocent, alluring kind of look to this character. So I think that's why she's getting these roles, but I don't feel like we get much from her at all.
She was just very flat.
Yeah.
Very flat. No, I agree. She's my no ma'am as well.
That should have been a super interesting character, especially with how they revealed her at the end.
Right. Yeah. Well, even the first reveal when we see that she's working for Voss, and Han asks her, "How did you get out?" And she's like, "I didn't." They don't really get into that how she got into working for Voss, and I'm fine with that. But she was just uninteresting.
Yeah, she was uninteresting, and I think something about the fact that she has played Daenerys on Game of Thrones. We've seen her be this like fierce,
Right, badass.
Yeah. I almost think it would have been better to have someone cast in this role who maybe had more of a who's like known for being more just like sweet, innocent, nice girl. Because they kind of build her as that to start and then slowly reveal that she is more than what meets the eye.
I just think that it would have either been better just to see anybody that had more experience either in that role or somebody that we don't know so much by being some other character. Do you know what I'm saying? Like if we had somebody who we've seen play multiple different people and seeing them play this character wouldn't throw us off, that'd be great. Or somebody brand new, but she is just, I guess she needs to be able to build that experience but I don't think Star Wars is the movie to put her in to build up that resume.
She just needs get out of franchises for a little while. Go do some
that too.
Go do some like things where you're dressed in like modern day clothes.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, she other than Terminator and Game of Thrones, she was in like a romantic comedy. I never saw that, but like that's pretty much the extent of her resume.
Yeah, I kind of want to see her do other stuff.
Yeah.
Or not, because if she can't be better than this, and I hate saying that because she's great on Game of Thrones. She is so good.
She really is, but
there's so much of the time where she is carrying large portions of that show.
But she's had 7 seasons
right
to build up to that.
Right.
And not with the entire focus being on her too. Not that the entire focus is on her in this, but she's the love interest for Han Solo. So there's a bit, a big amount of screen time dedicated to her.
Yeah. So that was my no ma'am, and yours,
and mine,
and yours,
and mine. So let's go ahead and rate this.
Okay. Do you want to go first?
Sure. So just to reiterate, despite the problems that we found with this movie, I did have a good time. Hell, I saw it twice. Unlike some of the other Star Wars movies, though, I don't think this is one that I'm going to see 7 or 8 times in the theater. I'll probably see it one more time because I haven't used my movie pass on it yet.
Oh, because you bought like
advanced seating. So
yeah.
So but I'm giving it 3 reels.
Okay.
I think it's a solid 3 on at least for me.
Okay. I'm actually going to go a little bit lower.
Okay.
Because this movie definitely needs work, and that's what 2 reels represents.
Yeah.
And I think I said before, when I give a movie 2 or 2.5, what makes the difference for me? A 2 would be a movie that needs work, and I did not enjoy myself. A 2.5 is a movie that needs work, but I still enjoyed myself enough. And so based on that criteria, I would have to give it 2.5 because
very fair.
I don't know if I'll see it again in theaters, but I'll definitely see it again. I would say as far as the 10 existing Star Wars movies goes, though, it is just above prequels, but below everything else.
Yeah.
For me.
Yeah. To be honest, I'm at a hard time deciding on whether or not I would put this above or below episode 3 even, because I truthfully really like episode 3.
Sure.
So one of these days I'm going to sit down and really evaluate my order.
Make a pro con list.
Yeah. But get my definitive list of 1 through 10 and what ranks where. But but yeah.
So 3 for you, 2.5 for me. Yeah, I mean, see the movie. Don't see the movie. Whatever you want to do.
Yeah, what the world's not going to stop turning if people decide they're not going to see Solo: A Star Wars Story.
Right, but
you better get your ass out to episode 9.
But it does need work.
Yeah, that's very fair. I'll go with that. All right, so let's get into weekly recommendations.
Yes.
I'm going to let you start this.
Well, as you can probably tell from my tone, I'm a little tired, but it's because I did something that I would recommend. I feel like a lot of people in Ohio don't know about this. So I was in Pensacola this past weekend. Every Memorial Day weekend down in Pensacola, Florida, a bunch of gays descend upon the beach, and it's just so much fun. I always have such a great time. A lot of people I know who go have an awesome time. It's just, I don't know about you, Mike, but I love the beach. I love being with my fellow homosexuals, but I had so much fun. It's a good time. If you haven't been, it's a good mix of, like, during the day, it's super chill, people on the beach, just enjoying their lives, having a good time with friends. And then at night, there's whatever you want to do with your night. So there was a night where we went to basically when I landed, because I got there Friday night, I landed, we changed, and I went to a circuit party.
Okay.
So there's that. And then, yeah. And then Saturday night, a bunch of us just hung out. A bunch of us just happened to bring heels and wigs without coordinating at all. So we all a bunch of us put on heels and wigs, and
gay.
Someone brought some like cool lights to where, like, our little condo was basically like a little dance club. So we just danced there, and it was really fun and a good time. So
good.
If you have not been to Pensacola for Memorial Day weekend, that is it's too late this year. 2019, I will see you there.
Awesome. I'm more of a West Coast guy myself, but I do enjoy the beaches.
Yeah. And there was supposed to be this that storm was supposed to come, and luckily for us, it never really hit while we were there. I mean, some of them are still there. They're leaving. We're recording on Monday. They're leaving Tuesday.
Yeah.
But I got out in time. That's all
there
that matters to me.
All right. Yeah. So for me, I don't have a true recommendation this week. I have been so busy, I haven't been able to take in anything new to share with the world. But that being said, though, I do have a couple things though to plug for the show.
You know how much I love plugs, Mike.
Everybody needs a good plug-in once in a while.
Well, why don't you plug our listeners right now?
All right, I'm going to plug you all. So here we go. Hey, so just in case you've just been tuning back in, if you've missed any of the shows that we've posted recently. So last week we did our third episode of the Rainbow Rewind. And it was talking about the movie Milk, which was just shortly after what would have been Harvey Milk's 88th birthday. So want to make sure that if you haven't heard that yet, that you check that out. But also, we're super excited to announce that this Friday, June 1st, so a couple days from the time people are listening to this, we have our very first special episode of our new show, Fierce 5 Films.
Yes.
That will be going live. And this is also the first show that we've had a guest on.
We sure did.
We did. So we are joined by Columbus comedian Wonder Doug, who is just amazing to talk to.
He's one of my favorite people. So great. We've already recorded the episode. It's in the can, so to speak. And we had such a blast.
Yeah, it was a great time. So that will be dropping on Friday, June 1st. So make sure you listen to that. So going from there, make sure that you are following us on Twitter at Real Gay and Instagram at Real Gay Movie Show. Like our Facebook page. That way you are up to date on all of these new things that we're doing.
And whatever thing you listen to our podcast on, whether it be YouTube, Stitcher, Google Play,
iTunes,
whichever one, or on all of them, make sure to rate, like, subscribe,
share,
comment, whatever, just to, let us know what you're thinking, how you feel about us.
Right. I mean, we would love to tell everybody else what you're thinking. We'd love to read some more listener comments.
Yeah, I want to read some listener comments.
If you don't like leaving comments on social media, you can email us directly at realgaymovieshow@gmail.com too.
Or find me on Grindr.
Or me on WBear.
WBear. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, all right, Ryan, how about we call it a night?
Let's call it a night.
All right. So, everybody, that's it for this week. Have a real gay day.